Hi everyone. Welcome to the Numerology and the Astrology for April 24th, 2020. So if you add all of those numbers up, you get the number 14, and if you add 1 and 4 together, you get the number 5. So the number 5 is about grounding and your physical body and health and healing. It is associated with an asteroid in astrology that is called Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer teacher. So when we're in a number 5 day, yes, it's really important to stay grounded and stay safe, but it's also really important to look at what is healing within you, what is wounded within you, and what is the thing that maybe you got wounded with in this lifetime that is actually your gift. So one of my teachers that I worked with, he had this interesting perception, and he basically said that whatever is your wound will be your wound until the day you die, because it's a neurological pathway that was formed in your brain. And we have sort of like this knee-jerk reaction that if something stimulates that neurological pathway, we're kind of down that tunnel before we can stop ourselves. And so consciousness is about being aware of your glitches, being aware of your neurological pathways, and kind of know that that's always there, but you don't always have to have that knee-jerk reaction. So that means that as the trigger starts to happen, you're so aware of the trigger that your brain goes, oh, well, there's the trigger again. And so, I know if I go down my normal way, there's no cheese down that door, and I will make myself miserable and everybody else miserable. So let's try something else, or let's simply not do the pattern. Sometimes that's the best thing, is to just simply choose to not do the pattern. So today, I want you to notice, are you aware of your patterns? I found for myself that the teachers that I really appreciated and respected the most were not the ones that pretended to be perfect, or were not the ones that, quote, said that they were enlightened. But I appreciated the teachers that basically said that, hey, I know I have this pattern from my childhood, so this is my little weakness and this is my glitch, and I'm constantly aware of it. But that's the thing that I'm working on, because I think everyone in life is human. And why I bring that up is that if we stop trying to make people be perfect, and we recognize that we're all human, and we're all going to fail, and we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to get caught in a lie, and we're all going to deceive ourselves, then we can not only forgive another, but we can actually forgive ourselves. But the first thing is to forgive yourself, and to start with yourself. So, here we are. We passed Earth Day, I know, which was kind of great for the animals because we weren't out and about so much. And so that was really good for the earth, and how much the earth is healing, and how quickly the earth is healing by us not polluting it and dumping toxic waste into the ocean, and dumping all of our garbage in the ocean. And recognize that, the wounding that we feel right now is a reflection of the earth wounding. So we're so interconnected that, one cannot thrive while another suffers without there being some sort of a consequence down the road. And I think that we're actually feeling that consequence at this point. So take a look at what's healing within you. Take a look at what this time is trying to teach you. So, for myself, it's like it's teaching me about gardening, and it's teaching me patience, and it's teaching me that seeds sprout very slowly. And it's teaching me that, they're very delicate, and that you have to protect them, because otherwise you have to start over again. And so, there's all these things that in our life we've been wounded like those seeds, and there are places that we probably need to start over again and try something new and try something different. So on this beautiful Earth Day, which is the number 5 day, not the Earth Day, but the number 5 day, I want you to look at what is healing in you that you could turn into some sort of grand adventure. I remember many years ago that I recognized that fear was one of my big issues. And people always say to me, God, you don't look scared. And I'm like, yeah, well, you don't live in here. So, but what I learned very young was that I had so much fear that if I listened to the fear, that I actually wouldn't get anything done. And so I decided to actively, safely, and constructively go in the direction of things that scared me so that I would dispel the fear and find out what was truth underneath it. And I approached it like a grand adventure. So, I basically said, okay, I am scared of heights, so I'm going to go bungee jumping. I am scared of small planes, so I'm going to parachute and jump out of a plane. And the funny thing was, the parachute was not the problem. The plane was actually the problem. Just going up in a small plane, it was like, so all of us have our little fears, but if we take it on instead of saying, oh, I'm afraid of that, I can't do that, and I want to say can't or won't. And instead of letting the fear control you and let the fear overtake you, what about seeing it as a grand adventure? I see what's happening right now in the world as a grand adventure. Like, we have to do something different. We have to approach everything we're doing completely differently. So what are you doing about that? I mean, are you buying things intentionally to eliminate plastic? I mean, I started buying all those shampoos that are in a bar, so that you don't have the plastic. So what are you doing to help Earth? What are you doing that, is going to help you awaken and heal your own wounds on the inside too? So we cannot change our world if we don't love this world. And we cannot change ourselves if we don't love ourselves. So there's so much healing that needs to happen on so many levels at this time. And I know that there's so much happening on so many levels that it does feel overwhelming. And it's supposed to feel that way. We have been way too unconscious for way too long. And now, we have to wake up. And this world is screaming at us in a way that we can no longer ignore. And perhaps that's really good. I mean, perhaps that is what is necessary. Perhaps we have to be afraid of our own survival enough that we globally decide to change. Okay. Now, the moon is in Taurus today, and it continues to square Mars in Aquarius. And this has been what's been making everybody feel really pooky. So know that this pattern can make you excited or argumentative or reactive or resistant. And some people, when they feel distressed, they go on a shopping binge. And so I want you to be careful to not waste money on ridiculous things. And repressing emotions will lead to out of control reactions and expressions of emotions later, and is not advised. And so, really look at how when you repress something, then it comes out in a really inappropriate way with somebody who doesn't deserve it because it's not about them. And that's just not the best way to come about things. And so I find it's just better to say right up front when you feel something. And so to not pretend that you are perfect. And so when somebody upsets me, I always go, ow, that hurt. I immediately say that rather than lash out at them and get reactive. So, notice if you're feeling moody. Do not take it out on others. Instead, find something that you feel passionate about and keep trying to channel that energy constructively or in a beautiful way. The moon is sextile Neptune, and it adds more sensitivity into the mix. Like, we really need more sensitivity in this mix, but something that you may not really appreciate in this moment is the heightening of your intuition and your sensitivity, and noticing more than you probably ever wanted to notice ever. And I want you to use this awareness and this energy of awakening to be more enthusiastic and imaginative. The moon trines Pluto, and there is an awakening of some feelings that are interesting. Perhaps you want to discover new places and new experiences. The moon trines Jupiter, which will help you have a more positive attitude. Yay. And let the optimism seep into your soul and allow your kind heart to be seen and felt by others. All good things. Now, know that Pluto is preparing to go retrograde on Saturday, and you will be feeling that shift today. And it's time to review and reflect on some old things in your past and finish up what is incomplete. You are being prepared to have major energy changes by December. And so this Pluto retrograde is going to begin that shift. But know that between Saturday And almost halfway through the rest of the year, almost all the planets are going retrograde, which is sort of unusual. They don't like to always go, at the same time. And I go, boy, are we being given a serious time out. Boy, are we, being told we have to review and reflect a lot of things. And so there's going to be a major shift in December. What that's going to look like is anybody's guess. But the energy today is very earthy, and you're going to have to make some decisions, and you could feel very indecisive today, and you could feel exhausted or listless, and let yourself rest if you need to, because your willpower will feel on the low end, and you might have some problems with focus. And notice if you feel more insecure, and recognize that you are not being told everything that you need to make appropriate choices for your own safety. So do your best to not obsess over anything, but you basically do need to keep yourself safe and everyone else safe. So you may not be able to get your message across today very easily, because others may not be able to hear what you're trying to tell them. And if that happens to be the case, just let it go. Okay? Don't beat a dead horse. Okay, so my quote for the day is, "Only through the eyes of wisdom and reflection can you see that things are vastly more diverse and complex than you believe or imagine. Because if you knew the effort some things were going to take, you probably would not take the risk or step on the path." Okay, so many years ago, my ex-husband and I went on one of my group Peru trips. And he was bipolar, and he spent a lot of time in his mind analyzing his emotions. So it was not as common for him to notice what others were feeling, though he did try and he worked on it. So as we were wandering around Peru on a bus, he suddenly had this flash of insight, and he said, "Oh my gosh, when you look at that person, you see this and this and this. And when you look at that person, you see that and that and that." And I responded and I said, "Yes, but I also see much more. So do you see this and this and this also?" And he sat up in shock and said, "Yeah, oh my God, you live like this on a daily basis? I think I would go insane." It was one of those moments when he saw past his own reality and into another potential way of being in the world, separate from his habits of being bipolar. And he did not like my way. It was too overwhelming and intimate for him. And I tried to explain that I did not always want to see what I saw, but it was not always something I could screen out either. And I have learned through time that people say that they want to know the truth, but rarely does anyone really want to hear the whole truth. And when they say that, they are speaking mostly from their ego. I find that truth filters in when you are ready for it, and not because you demand it from the universe. I look back to my youthful, exuberant moments when I too wanted to know everything. And I recognize now how grateful I am that the guides and angels did not accommodate me in that moment. I was young and foolish, and my ego was way too attached, and I would have become frightened, and then I would have retreated from my path out of fear or disappointment, because it was not what I thought I was going to get, or not what my ego wanted. I also recognize that that when you are given truth, you think you understand it, but only later do you realize that you were only seeing a very small amount of what was given. And only through that eyes of wisdom and reflection can you see that things are vastly more diverse and complex than you believe or imagine. And sometimes that is good, because if you knew the effort some things were going to take, you probably would not take the risk or step on the path. So, I want everyone for a second today to reflect on the things that you started, and you thought you were going to have massive success. Like your intuition said, "This is it. I'm going to have massive success, and I'm going to make lots of money," and all this kind of stuff. And then realize that you didn't. And, are you beating yourself up for not succeeding to the degree that you had the expectation that you were supposed to succeed? Because I find that there are many things that I have done in my life that I felt compelled and prompted, or my intuition told me to do, that were amazing. I mean, they were really amazing, but they never really got to the level of money or financial security that I thought they would. So, like a great example for me is my tarot book, which, I kind of worked on and off with this book for over 12 years. And there's a whole story related to Aleister Crowley that I should probably tell you guys tomorrow that is related to the book. And I thought this is so, amazing. And I had all these synchronicities happening, and, perfect timing of things, and people handing me books that are not even available. And so I had access to tremendous amounts of information, and so many things that were absolutely synchronous. And I thought, this is it. And I felt so, so proud of that book called Integral Tarot when it came out, and you can get it on Amazon. And it's also on Kindle. And I also have a tarot class that's free on my YouTube channel. So there's all these factors that are related to it. But the reality is that I spent $135,000 producing my 2 books and my 2 CD sets. And that's a lot of money back then. And I actually had my accountant sit me down and say, okay, wait a second, you have to stop doing these books, because you've basically made no money at all in 2 years. Like, all of the money you have made has gone into the books. And I was like, thank God I was married and had a husband that had money, but, because otherwise I would have been under and not able to do it. And in all truth, I have never made that money back from those books. But it wasn't about the books. I mean, it was about the books, but it wasn't about the books. It was about manifestation and the commitment that it takes in order to manifest something in the world. And it was for posterity. It was for down the road, that these videos will always be out there, and hopefully they will help somebody with understanding tarot in a very different way. And I had to take the ego out of it and the me out of it, and recognize that I was partially channeling Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris. And so I was completing a journey for them. I was contributing to their work, getting out there in a different form. And I gave my own energy to it, and maybe modified it and altered it in a way that hopefully is more understandable for some people, because people say, wow, you explain it so well. Like, it's so less complicated when you explain it. And I also think that writing the books was about me finishing something and taking a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of effort and detail. Because trust me, when you are writing a book, you read your own book like 500 times, and you are so sick of your own voice at the end of writing your book. I can't even tell you, right? So you're sick of hearing your own voice. You're sick of trying to find more grammatical and punctuation errors. And so it's this incredible place where at a certain point you say, it's enough. It's good enough. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but it's good enough. And I'm going to put it out there. And I get, people from all over the world saying how much they adore my book and appreciate my book. But, again, through Kindle, you just don't make any money really on the books. But I make more money sending it through Kindle with Amazon than I do through sending an actual physical book, because I actually lose 66 cents a book when I send a book hard copy, if you can believe that, in this crazy dance of life. So, but what the books gave me was credibility, that I am a published author. And so even though the books are not, on the New York Times bestseller list or anything like that, that's not what's really important. And, so you do these things and you think the money is important, and you think the fame is important, and you realize that none of that is true. Sharing is what is important. Information sharing is what's important. Sharing wisdom is important. Inspiring another generation is important. Giving a gift back that maybe was given to me is important. And that's what gives you the energy back. That's what gives you the juju back, is when you give from that place, and when you get past the ego far enough, because the ego is not going to get satisfied. that you actually realize that it would never was for the ego. It never was for the money. It never was for the fame. It was for something else, and maybe something else in the future that you will never see. That it might inspire somebody to create a whole new tarot deck, 100 years from now. I know that there are a lot of people like Saint Germain that really inspired me to write my palmistry book and things like that. So, maybe we're here to be an inspiration in different ways, shapes, and forms. And that's what these videos are about from my standpoint. This is, I'm not a professional videographer, and everything isn't set up absolutely perfectly. And that's not what it's about. What it's about is giving you guys a reflection of a spiritual person who is seeking truth and wisdom in her own way, and that she's not perfect, and her face isn't perfect, and her skin isn't perfect, and everything isn't perfect, but that she has an authentic heart that she wants to share with others, and that maybe that will inspire you to be courageous enough to also have your own authentic heart inspire you to be courageous and to try also. Because I go, if we wait for ourselves to be perfect, we're going to be waiting forever, and we'll never get anything done, and we'll never inspire other people. But there's a certain point, just like with my book, that you have to say, I'm good enough. I have something to share. I have some sort of wisdom to share. And it is good enough for the people who are touched by it, for the people who are inspired by it. That's what they need in this moment. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for tuning in. And I appreciate the feedback that I'm getting, and I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Talk to you later. Bye.